Getting older, it can suck, but it doesn't have to suck. We're going to talk about 5 proven ways by studies and data that actually slow down the aging process. Again, they're proven. Let's get into it.
I feel this is prompted from our gray hair conversation.
Yeah, no.
Getting old rules,
that we were all
I need to reframe this.
Let me list all 5 first, then we'll break them down, just so people know what we're going to talk about. Here are the 5 ways that the data shows are the most effective ways to slow down aging. Strength training, calorie restriction, eating things like omega-3s, grass-fed beef, fiber, taking naps, and mindfulness or prayer. All right, let's get into all of them and the studies and data that shows why. Now, I first think what I want to do is kind of paint the context, okay? There's biological aging, which you can measure through certain markers, right? Now, we don't have this perfect.
Yeah, telomeres and stuff like that.
It's not perfect. But there are some markers that are pretty good, right? Like telomerase, which is, or merase, I don't know how you pronounce it right, which is an enzyme produced by the body that'll go up or down depending on how quickly you're aging. Telomere length or shortening. You have other markers like inflammatory markers, hormone markers, insulin sensitivity. Mitochondrial dysfunction or function. So that's all biological. But then you have like the perceived dysfunction that, or should I say the general dysfunction that we would attribute to aging, right? Lack of strength, lack of mobility, lack of energy, stiffness, bones not as strong, maybe cognitive decline, like all the things that if we were to kind of generally say, like what happens, what are the bad things that happen to you as you get older? Those are things that, we would typically list. And so
Sure.
The things that we're going to talk about have been shown in studies to reduce the markers of biological aging, but also have been shown to improve the symptoms associated with aging. Right. That's why number 1 is strength training.
I was just going to ask you, what would you say is better, the improving the symptoms or the markers that we currently have that tell you whether you're getting older or not?
Symptoms are, because that's what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Right.
That's more relevant to your individual experience.
Who cares if your biomarkers look great if you feel like crap?
Right.
Which I don't know if that's ever the case. Maybe, because again, we don't have this like perfect way of measuring aging from a biological
I care
standpoint.
most about my real age score.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's so funny. I have a cousin who sent everybody his biological age score because he was like, "Oh, I'm so much younger than my age," and we all know him because he's our cousin, and
He looks the oldest.
He's not just looks the oldest. He's for sure the oldest. Like mobility, like everything. Like most tired,
Guys,
most whatever.
I'm like 29.
So I'm like, I don't care what your score says, bro. You're gonna do well. But strength training is at the top because it does all of the stuff. Yeah. Okay. So as you get older, you can lose strength, you can lose mobility, you can lose balance.
Lose ability.
Your bones can weaken. Your hormones can change. Your insulin sensitivity gets worse. You lose energy. All that's cognitive function declines. Strength training of all the forms of exercise is the best. I'm not saying that's the only thing you should do, by the way.
Promotes the best youthful profile.
It does. So if you were to pick one form and that's all you had to do, which is not ideal. Ideally, you do multiple forms of exercise. Okay, but if you had to pick one that would slow down the aging process the most from all the markers and the symptoms, it's strength training. It just is. I mean,
it also has the greatest ROI on the other 4 things that you listed on.
Yeah, so you don't need to do a lot of it.
Right. For what you get on return, for the amount of time invested in doing it, it even surpasses the other 4 things that you talk about.
1 or 2 days a week of strength training is profound in its effects when it comes to slowing it. In fact, in my career as a trainer, I had a lot of clients that would be considered, it's so funny, we were in Vegas talking to the clients of our trainers. We now have trainers. We now have trainers who coach and work with clients, some of them virtual. And one of them came up to me. She's in her 70s, wonderful woman. Yeah. And she goes, I hate it when you refer to people in my age group as advanced age. Call them something else. That's just the term that was used in our space, right? When you get your certifications, it's a category. But I had a lot of clients. A majority of my clients were over the age of 55. In fact, most of them were over the age of 60. And they all lifted weights once a week. Like maybe one of them that I can think of off the top of my head did more than that. Everybody else was once a week, and they were active throughout the rest of the week. So it wasn't like they didn't exercise.
Doug was a couple.
Doug was he was in his 40s when I trained.
Oh, yeah, in the 60s. Right?
Yeah, no. Sorry, Doug. We always got to do the age jokes. It helps when people meet you. They're like, "Oh my god, you look amazing."
He looks amazing for 85.
For how the guys talk about you, he's not
Killing
85. But they all lifted once a week, and the difference was, one of the big things that you'll hear about as people get older is their balance is off. And we tend to think that balance is, and it is this, but this isn't what's happening when you're getting older. We think that your vestibular system, your inner ear, like, you're losing your balance because your way of managing balance in your brain is getting worse. That's not what's happening for majority of people as they get older. No. They're losing balance because they're weaker.
Yep.
When you're weaker, you're just not as strong and stable.
Well, and your body is pruning off things that you're not challenging and using.
That's right.
So if you don't challenge stability, strength, movements out of these that are uncommon, then when the body has to move in this uncommon way or out of it, you're weak. And the body said, we don't need this anymore because you stopped doing it. Therefore, it's interesting that is that what we tend to do is try and pin it on something going on in the brain that there's like,
well, I remember
there obviously is something there, but it really has more to do with that.
I remember having this discussion with one of the best physical therapists that I've ever met in my entire life. I've talked about her before. She worked in my studio. We had this conversation because she also had clients in this age group, and what she would do is balance exercises, which are great. There's nothing wrong with them. But I remember talking to her and saying, you'll get more bang for your buck if you just get them strong. Mm-hmm. And we had this whole discussion. And now the reason why she did that is because physical therapists are so correctional exercise focused. They're not strength training focused necessarily. Right. And I remember her going, like, one of the few things I taught her, because most of the stuff she taught me, was one of the few things that she took from me was like, let's just get them strong. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened to my clients. Like, I just got them strong and their balance went through the roof because they were stronger. I didn't have to focus on balancing as much. It was just, let's build strength.
This is something, I mean, I've been talking with my dad. He just had knee replacements, and he's 6'7", and he's a big guy, and he's old, and it's like, his balance is off and all this stuff, and started to kind of use a cane. I'm like, you can't use the cane.
Oh God.
The cane is the
beginning
pathway
of the end.
to the spiral.
Yeah,
it's the beginning of the end. And so, it's just been work, but I mean, just to really refocus and prioritize strength training and how we introduce that and do it appropriately with the right amount of dose, like, and it's already making a big difference. But I mean, that is such like a common theme. It's like, let's just go to the cane. Let's just get stability somewhere.
If you had to pick an organ of the body that was the organ of youth, it's muscle. Muscle is what keeps you young more than any other organ in the body. Keep your muscle healthy and you're going to age slower. That's just a fact.
And someone would try and make the argument that the heart is that, but by proxy, if you work on the muscle, the heart is going to get
healthy
stronger.
Muscle tends to equal a healthy heart. It's more complex than that. Diet comes into play and all sorts of things, right? Lifestyle, but healthy muscle contributes to healthy heart, and the studies on this are pretty clear.
I think that's an important thing for us to discuss in this conversation, because the typical default from either a general practitioner or just the average person will go, this is why I need to do cardio or do a little bit of aerobic exercise because I need to strengthen my heart, because the heart is the most important. The difference is you can strengthen your heart and all the rest of your muscles on your body get weaker and atrophy still. Whereas if you strengthen the muscles support on your entire body, you will get some benefits and carry over to the heart.
There's more carryover.
That's right.
Yeah, and time for time, it's the most useful use of your time. But you should do both. That's
right.
ideal.
And that's what I'm glad you said that, because my point of that is not saying like, don't do any cardio, you should just lift weights. But the point is, if I had my dad and I only had one choice, he's
you
only
have 1 hour a week with him.
Exactly. And I'm going to get him strength training because I'm going to get some of the heart benefits from that, in addition to all the other benefits that come from building muscle.
It's funny too, when you look at the studies on bone weakening in women, right? Osteoporosis more common in women. When they have female participants who do aerobic or cardiovascular exercise regularly, their lower body bone density obviously maintains better than the average person who doesn't do anything. But their upper body bone density still declines because it's only on the lower body. And it's not as effective as strength training, even for the lower body. Strength training, you build muscle, you build bone. You want strong bones for the rest of your life, stay strong. And again, muscle is the organ of youth. So keep it. And by the way, studies on people in their 70s and 80s who do consistent exercise shows that they have muscles that if you were to analyze them in a lab, you almost couldn't tell the difference between them and a 20-something-year-old. So that's how awesome it is to do strength training. Today's program giveaway is MAPS Strong. If you want to win, leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications. Do all of those, and if you win MAPS Strong, we'll let you know in the comment section. We also have a sale on some programs. MAPS Split and the Anabolic Metabolism bundle of programs, all of that, 50% off. If you're interested, go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and then use the code July50 for the discount. Here comes the show. Next is calorie restriction. This one's interesting. Now, people take this too far.
Right.
Where they see the studies on animals and like, oh my God, you know, these rodents or fruit flies lived 30% longer because they were on calorie restricted diets. And here's why it goes too far. If you go calorie restrict too far, you can become weak and brittle. Okay, so if you eat too little, you're also weak, and that could cause lots of problems. Right. That being said, I think to put this more accurately, calorie restriction, I'd like to say it like this: don't overeat. Yeah. Overeating is a fast way to aging.
I feel like I like that even better than even saying calorie restrictions.
Yes. Calorie restriction is what the data
because you very easily can tip into the too much too fast, especially in the context of our experience of training the average person who is also trying to do the first step, which is lift weights, almost always underconsumes protein. Right. Yeah. And that's one of the most essential things that you could eat for the building blocks of...
I'm so glad you said that, Adam, because here's what the studies show. When they do the studies on calorie restriction, it's a 10 to 15% reduction in calories. Okay, it's not a ton, but it's consistent. Do you know how you can get a natural 10 to 15% reduction in calories? Eat a high protein diet, eat it first.
Right.
So your protein is high, calories naturally drop. Now you're doing both.
Right. And you're hitting the thing that is going to complement
strengthen your body.
The first one.
That's right.
Important. And if you neglect to do that, and this is so important, because if you go, okay, I got it, and so then you start doing things like fasting and really calorie restricting because you hear the studies and the benefits, and you're also doing the strength training, you don't even get to really reap the full benefits of the strength training because you're not hitting your protein intake. And then that compounds if you actually do that. So if you take the advice you just said, which is instead of looking at it like calorie restriction, just eat a high protein diet, prioritize protein, the calories will naturally probably balance themselves that way, while also strength training. Now the effects are compound.
100%. And then just to hammer this home, when you look at the data on mortality, people who are older, so let's say over the age of 70, the people with the highest mortality risk are people who are severely underweight or underweight. Underweight is worse than being a little overweight when you're older. Not obese, but being a little overweight's better than being a little underweight when it comes to mortality. Why? You get sick or you're in the hospital and you're a little underweight.
A lot more susceptible.
That's when things really start to fall apart. So it's really more accurately, don't overeat, and don't overeat consistently. That'll make you age slower. Next is omega-3s, grass-fed beef, and fiber. So omega-3s and grass-fed beef, I'll put in the same category. Now here's why I said grass-fed beef. If you eat a lot of beef, it makes a difference to make sure that your beef is grass-fed and grass-finished, because the fatty acid profile is better. So really it's connected to the omega-3 tip. Now, why omega-3? Because our fatty acid profile in Western societies is so off that it's pro-inflammatory. Yeah. We have this terrible ratio of omega-6s and 9s to 3s. And what it does is just produces more inflammation in the body, which more than is necessary or appropriate, which accelerates the aging process. Foods that are high in omega-3s, or second best, not as good, but second best, is supplementing with omega-3s to balance that out, which reduces the oxidative damage and inflammatory process that can contribute, or that does contribute to accelerated aging. Fiber is another one. And I love talking about fiber because you this carnivore diet group of people, which I'm going to say first, there's a very, very small percentage of people that a carnivore diet is going to be good for. These are the people who are hyperimmune response for whatever reason, Michaela Peterson types, where they eat, for whatever reason, their body's super reactive to almost anything. So it's best to avoid almost everything, or everything except for meat. And you can get away with meat because it's so nutrient dense. But what they'll often do is make this argument that fiber has no benefits, which is crazy. Fiber has some of the most literature of anything in diet to show benefit.
Yeah.
Fiber is beneficial for digestion, beneficial for your microbiome in ways that we now know are beneficial for slowing down the aging process, reducing the risk of disease. Fiber helps with insulin sensitivity. Fiber is good for you. It's good to eat a good amount of fiber. And in the studies on diets that tend to show, benefits in terms of aging, they tend to be higher in fiber. So omega-3, grass-fed beef, if you eat a lot of beef, and fiber, which takes us to naps. This is pretty cool. Have you guys seen the studies on naps?
A little bit, but not a lot. And this one's interesting to me.
Yes. So I'll read you some of the studies.
Okay, while you're getting into it, I have a theory on why this from a study perspective gets so praised so much. I think it has less to do with taking naps and more to do with how much as a population we neglect sleep.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
I think that too, and as we age, and I've noticed this with my grandparents, and and they've even mentioned it, that it's been a lot. Like they go to bed a bit later and get up really early, so their window kind of changes in terms of the amount of sleep.
Sleep quality gets worse as you age. That's a fact. It's an absolute fact that happens. So that may be the case, Adam. In fact, there was a study that was done because I thought one reason why sometimes people avoid napping is that it might disrupt their evening sleep. And what they found in older individuals was it didn't.
Interesting.
It did not disrupt their evening sleep. So it just contributed to getting better sleep. Or more sleep. Now, the studies show that short, regular daytime naps between 5 to 30 minutes. So you're not napping for an hour or two.
No, it's very short.
You're napping for 20 to 30 minutes.
And anybody who's ever experienced this knows this. Like you once you cross over that,
you get to 45 minutes to an hour, you wake up and
it's the worst.
You
feel worse.
The rest of the day sucks.
Yeah, but whereas sometimes I just did this while we were up in Truckee because this is a place when I feel like I can do this where we get up early, we go to the lake, we're active, stuff like that. And midday, I'm like, man, I'm tired. I'm going to take a nap and I'll lay down. And it's so fast, it almost felt like I didn't sleep.
Yeah, you feel like you were awake the whole time.
Yes, but I know I slept because the time went by and I went, oh, wow, I slept probably 20, 30 minutes real quick. And then I feel so refreshed.
So here's what the data shows, and this is just a summary of it. By the way, the strongest evidence comes from, there's a UK Biobank study. It linked habitual napping, those short naps, to brain volume equivalent to 2.6 to 6.5 years younger. Wow. So when people did this, their brains looked younger than their actual age.
What a trip.
That's right. Moderate napping is also correlated with slower cognitive decline and biological age acceleration in longitudinal studies. These are studies of thousands and thousands of people. Now, here's the other side of it. Excessive long naps probably signifies that you have some health issues. Mm-hmm. And so somebody's like, oh my God, I need a 2-hour nap every day.
Yeah.
There's something going on that we need to look at. But the short naps, 20 to 30, that's mine, 20 minutes. And I'll often tell my wife this. I'll say, I'm going to go take a nap for 20 minutes. I'll set my alarm. I'll come back and I'm like a new person.
So do you think, though, that to my point, that it has more to do with what you're lacking in your night's rest than it has with this is some sort of a hack?
I think it's both.
Like if somebody was getting 8 hours of full great rest every single night, I imagine they're getting little benefit to these naps. Or do you think that person still experiences the same benefit as the person who is only getting 6 hours and then they're also at least taking this nap?
So they've done studies on both and they both benefit.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody benefits from a 15.
Even somebody well rested.
That's right.
Interesting.
That's right. In fact, it's. I could say this right now, and I bet you 80% of people listening would be like, "Oh yeah, we all get that dip of energy right around 2, 3 p.m. What we typically do is reach for caffeine to get us up. When a 20-minute nap would be perfect and would require no drugs, no caffeine, just to make us feel better. And then lastly is mindfulness or prayer. This one's one of my favorite ones. I'll pull up some studies for you guys, which is pretty remarkable. There was a cross-sectional study that analyzed over 1,200 adults between the ages of 40 to 80. What they found, this was the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and they were looking for links between religious practices and telomere length. Frequent prayer was strongly associated with longer telomeres, particularly in women and older adults. The effect was partially mediated by social support and lower stress, so suggested that prayer's benefits might also come from emotional regulation, community engagement, telomere length was approximately 5% longer in frequent prayers compared to non-prayers, which is equivalent to about 1 to 2 years of slower aging. Now, mindfulness is the other side of it. So mindfulness is like meditation, stuff like that. And they found that it also does the same thing, increases telomere activity, reduces stress, cortisol levels. You get improved insulin sensitivity. Like it's no longer the woo-woo. Like we have lots of studies that support. I mean, it's better memory, executive function, scores, slower cognitive decline.
I think there's a deeper root connection there. I've been thinking about this a lot too. I just listened to a really cool conversation with Chris Williamson and Alex Hormozy, and they were talking about this interesting phenomenon that we do as humans, where let's say you're having what you would consider a bad year of your life or a bad season of your life, and then you unpack that. Like, what does that mean? And really what it is, it's a collection, and normally a small collection, one-time moments where something negative happened.
Yeah.
But then you catastrophize it as this massive time frame. When it was like those were 4
little blips
in a period of this time, but you've chosen to focus so much on it and allow it to be this big problem. So if this is true, then the inverse should be too. Can I not take these small positive moments that have happened, probably in the same exact time frame, and reframe that time of my life and go, it really isn't a bad time of my life. In fact, I've had several significantly more positive things. And so I think mindfulness and prayer hacks into that. I think mindfulness and prayer or gratitude practices stop you for a moment, because it's very easy. We're wired this way. Bad thing happens, freak out, all the negative, like
all your focus goes there.
All the focus goes there because we're wired that way. So it takes you actively going, wait a second, I'm okay. I'm not going to die. There's no lying or whether that. Yeah, sure. I lost the job. Yeah, sure. Got in a huge fight with but at the end of the day, this also happened, and this happened, and this also happened, and it's like, and I'm healthy, and I'm alive, and I got somebody who loves me.
We are.
Fear doesn't prevent death.
Right.
Yeah. And we are negatively inclined. And we are take for granted machines.
Yes,
we really are.
We are.
My dad used to tell me this all the time. So my father was a poor Sicilian immigrant, very poor. Okay, he had to leave school to work at 9. That's how poor they were as a family. And he used to tell me this all the time. Like, man, you have no idea the blessings that you have. And I didn't get it as a kid. I just never understood. I think this is why sometimes when people travel, or they go volunteer, they come back happier.
New perspective.
It changes your perspective, because how often do you turn on your water faucet and go, man, I'm so grateful.
I know.
Yeah,
I got
your
water.
outlook creates your reality.
Instead, here's what happens.
Experience.
Or you just turn on the light switch. Instead, this is what happens. Your power goes out once a year. Life sucks.
Yeah.
Rather than 364 days this year, I wanted electricity and I had it just at the fingertip.
Yeah.
There's a comedian that does this bit where he talks about how people were complaining that their Wi-Fi wasn't working on the airplane. And he's like, you are traveling through the sky.
You're on an airplane of the gods
to Hawaii, and you can't, get on Instagram for 10 minutes,
Ooh, yeah.
But it requires practice.
Yes.
Because if you allow your body, your brain to naturally do what it does, it is going to go to the negative. It won't go to the positive.
So this is my point.
Yep.
I agree.
Of the unpacking the prayer and the mindfulness thing, or you throw in gratitude practice in there, is I think if you literally, speaking again, Alex Hormozy, his most viral tweet was, he said, the greatest superpower, I'm going to probably bastardize this a little bit, so forgive me, but it's like the greatest superpower is the ability to be grateful in moments when there's nothing to be grateful about.
Yeah.
And the reason why it probably went so viral is because there is so much truth in that statement, is like that ability, again, reframing and being positive when there's nothing to be positive about, has so much power. Maybe one of the most powerful things you could ever learn to do. And so I think prayer, mindfulness, all those things give you a glimpse of what that,
and it has to be a practice.
The only reason you feel that there's nothing to be grateful for because you haven't trained yourself how to do that.
It made me think, did you share on the podcast? I don't know if you did. I know you did with me privately. I don't know if you share publicly on the podcast, but I just think it goes right in line with this conversation. I think it's so important for all of us. Is you began to you stopped with the 5 things of gratitude at the end of the night, and you have now
throughout the day,
like force yourself. And I just think that
because my gratitude, my prayers started becoming.
Did we talk about that publicly, or was that just me and you?
I don't know if we talked about it.
I just think it's if we didn't, or if we did it, I apologize for us having this again, but it's on my mind a lot. I think it's really powerful. I think it's an incredible hack. I don't know if you got that from somebody else or
what happened was you always hear gratitude practice. So I knew the value of it, but the problem was my prayers started to sound generic.
Same thing, same 5.
Yeah, like, hey, thank you for my family.
Yes.
Thank you for my health. Thank you for, it's like every day. And I was missing the daily small things that I could be grateful for. And so what I started to do, actually set alarms for a little while, was every other hour, a little alarm would go off and I'd be like, all right, what just happened that I'm grateful for? And I started finding myself grateful for like
random little stuff.
I'm grateful for the joke that Justin told me earlier. Oh my God, that was so funny. I'm so grateful I went for a walk and it was sunny. Sounds silly, but it changes your brain.
So
totally.
Unbelievably powerful.
Yes,
and I think that gratitude practices have been become so popular and everybody talks about it. And there's really like 2 camps. You have people that like have bought into it and like, oh my God, life-changing. The other people are like, oh, it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think where the bunch of bullshit comes from is from people, and I can attest to this personally myself, of doing the exact same thing where it's like, okay, I've really implemented that for a while and been like, I'm even to write it down, the 5. And the same thing happened to me. I'm like, well, this is lame. Yeah. I'm writing the same 5 things. And it's not that I'm not any more or less grateful for those things because I am writing them or not writing them down anymore. But what I failed to do was was like, how about like look beyond that? And then that's hard to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, you forget.
But you exactly. And so what a great new practice that you have implemented.
It's cool too, because my wife has been commenting to me on how encouraging I've been lately. But I haven't even thought of trying to be more encouraging. It's happening naturally.
It's a byproduct.
You're just noticing things.
I'm just noticing stuff that I don't notice.
You're positive.
And I can't default to noticing them because it's not my default. It's just not a human default. Yeah. And there are more positive than negative people. I get that. But no, it's a practice. And the data shows, man, they can measure your aging. They can measure your health. I mean, these are real effects. It's not just your mind changes, it's your health changes, your fitness changes, everything changes.
It's like a decay, if you stay in that negative frame of mind.
100%. Speaking of aging, I gotta tell you, it's just something funny. I know you guys will make fun of me, but I had friends over.
In a positive way.
I had friends over on Sunday, good friends of ours, James and Melissa, love them. And we're hanging out. And my wife does a good job of making photo albums. And you know what she does? She takes these pictures and she gets them printed in these books. They're really cool. You can get them printed.
Shutterfly?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So we had them out, and these are like 2016, 2017. So they're old, it's like, 8 years old type of deal. And so these friends came over and they'd never seen these pictures. And we've only been friends with them for like the last 6 months. So they pick them up and they're looking at it and they're like, oh my God. They're like, is that you? I'm like, yeah, dude. They're like, yeah. Wow, look at all that hair and look at that baby face. I'm like, screw you guys, man. Yeah. That's 8 years ago. But it just made me realize and this is true too. The older you get, the faster you age. I actually looked this up. The aging process, it can measure. Yeah, it accelerates as you get older. Now, that being said,
probably has a lot to do with the other things we talked about.
Yeah, but also for anybody in this category where as you're getting older, you're like, oh my God. If you do the things that we're talking about regularly, it's not fair to compare yourself to 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And comparison isn't a great thing anyway, but if your ego needs a little stroke like mine did, I'm like, all right, do I know any other 46-year-olds and how am I aging in comparison to them? Pretty good. I'm doing all right.
I blame my gray hair on seeing a ghost. So
say what?
I said I blame my gray hair on seeing a ghost.
What ghost did you see?
That's a ghost that I told you.
Your favorite.
Yeah. I have a story I love to share when talking about aging because it was so impactful for me in my 20s. And I've shared it once or twice before on the podcast, but since you're on the topic, share it again. Like I thought one of the coolest. I'm like 24-ish or 5-ish, somewhere around that range. And we've all talked about one of our favorite things about training clients that were much older than us is just the wisdom.
Oh, I love it.
And one of my favorite things about being a personal trainer is I just love meeting all these different people from all different walks and all different age levels and parts of their life. And sometimes I feel like I got more from the training sessions than they did, right? Asking them questions all the time. And I had this boot camp class, right, of like, I don't know, probably 20, mostly women, some men, but mostly women in there. And ages from, I think the youngest I had in there was a teenager or early 20s, all the way up to like 70, the whole range. And I asked one morning, it was just on top of mind for me because I was thinking about aging and getting older and stuff like that. And I was just like, man, I got to be in the best years. Like I'm 25, I'm going to Vegas, I got a couple dollars in my pocket. Like I look good, I feel good. Like this could be peak. Is this peak for me? Like, you know, and I'm asking all them. And the thing that I found that was so unique was that every single one of them would talk about, oh yeah, I remember my 20s, or I remember my 30s. And then I'd say like, so I asked them, what was the best period of your life time-wise? And every single one of them, whether I was talking to the 30, the 40, the 50, or the 70-year-old said, right now.
That's so cool.
And I was like, wow, that's
Now,
interesting.
the one thing they had in common was they're all fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if your health goes south, I could see how
Yeah,
that
they were,
went.
I mean, I wouldn't say like
You know, healthy.
fit. Yeah.
They were doing a boot camp.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so all of them, yeah, exactly. The fact that they could even do a boot camp class
Exactly.
speaks to their at least their level of fitness and health, right? They weren't ripped, jacked fitness people.
But they weren't like
but they were
dependent
people
on-
that cared about their health enough to show up to a 6 a.m. class
Yeah.
with this young kid and run around a track and do a bunch of shit, right? So it was really fascinated that literally 100 across the board. There was not one person that goes like, oh man, I missed my 30s. My 30s were great. You know what I'm saying? And 50s not at. But every one of them said all the great things about those periods of time still didn't trump the current moment.
Would
which
you
excited me
trade?
about
Well,
you.
let me ask you guys: would you trade wisdom for going back 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? No, that would suck.
Yeah.
It's what do they say? Youth is wasted on the young. It's because wisdom is so valuable.
Yeah.
It's super valuable, and wisdom gives you peace and calm and all this. And the knowledge that comes. Wisdom is different than knowledge. It's from experience. I used to love training older clients because of that.
Yeah.
Oh, the advice they would give me was always like,
I love that.
oh, it was the best thing.
We had a call yesterday. Was that the one that you were in? Or not? Yeah, it was the one you were in when we kicked off the longevity group. And Linda, was that her name? 75-year-old.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just love. I mean, man,
I invited her down so she could listen to it.
yeah, that just lights me up when we get clientele. I love that's probably we did a thing that was different, unique to the audience that wasn't there. First time ever we'd done this where we launched a program and then we offered basically a free Zoom for the first.
It's like a kickoff.
Yeah, like kickoff to the program, and so you just got just for us an opportunity to for an hour talk to this audience
Chop
of
it
people.
up, yeah.
And man, to look at the group of the 100 and something, whatever, 100, 200 people that were in there.
Such a spectrum.
Such a spectrum. I mean,
all over the
everything
place.
from young, old. I mean, every walk of life you could think of is just so cool to see that. And speaking of I just think it's so neat that we've got people that are 75 and just love the show and listen to it.
Speaking of trainers and stuff, I mean, that clip you showed me of Joe DeFranco.
Oh, bro.
I love him.
So listen, let me tell you the
He
story.
gets it. He's so good.
Let me tell you the story.
Okay, yeah.
Let me tell you the story.
Yeah.
So I get a text. I've been talking a lot with, we have guests on the show. We have lots of people that come through here. Every once in a while, we all talk about this, that we meet people that we just hit it off with. And they walk out and we go like, oh, that's our people.
Yeah.
Joe DeFranco is an example of that, right? Ben Bruno has been that.
Yeah, he's great.
Just
For sure.
Really, he wasn't even on my radar, and then we got to know him. I had heard his name drop a bunch of times and seen his stuff, and I was like, oh, he seems like a good guy, but haven't really met and hung out. And then we hung out. It was just like, oh, that's our people. Really, really like this dude, and we've remained in texting back and forth. And probably, I don't know, once or twice a week is what we text each other. And he sends me over this text. He sends me a clip from Instagram, and it's a trainer basically talking shit about him.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you know who this guy is? Yeah. And it's one of the guys from Functional Patterns who we've talked about before, just, as far as his method of getting attention on the internet. And so we've already, I won't go through us scolding his ass.
That's
fine. But the point
Plenty
of
of videos out there.
Ben didn't know who he was. Like, oh yeah. I kind of like eye rolled and like, yeah, I know who the dude is or whatever like that. Like, not whatever. He's like, man, he goes, I can't stand trainers like this. I said, I tell you what, I said, this was last week. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll bring it up on the show and roast his ass again just because I think it's just poor taste with some of this. But then literally like 3 days later, I'm up on my feed and Joe DeFranco decided to do what do they call that? Like a reaction video to that trainer who's basically shitting on everyone. And I told Ben, I'm like, I don't think I could do that better. I said, like Joe
lit him on fire.
So the video was, so who's the athlete that he's training?
Tyrese Halliburton.
Okay. So Ben's by the way, Ben has a client base that's incredible because he's so good.
Yep.
And he trains this athlete, and I guess this athlete suffered an Achilles injury.
Yeah.
And this functional patterns guy is like, oh, it's this is why he tore his Achilles. It's this exercise criticizing Ben. which is just, it's so frustrating because, and Joe DeFranco breaks it down well, but there is no training methodology that will guarantee injury-free, especially at that level. But the point he made, I thought was so good. He goes, look, if you're going to criticize him as his trainer for this injury, you should also credit him for all the success. And he crushed.
Which, by the way, Tyrese Halliburton is in season 3 or so right now. So he's what we consider like his freshman years as a pro athlete, and is having a all-star career year, carried the Pacers all the way to the NBA finals.
And Ben's his trainer.
Yeah. And Ben is his personal trainer.
So
Went
sick.
on one of the most epic runs in playoffs you have ever seen. Nobody had the Pacers predicted to go all the way. Nobody saw him. So, and then, by the way, it's game 7, last game of the championship. Pacers are playing, and Tyrese, against what was told to him, to sit out because he had already strained his calf.
Yeah.
And he played anyways.
Yeah.
And then he tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
Right. And then he tore his Achilles. And then so for some puke trainer to break down.
I haven't heard that word in so long.
To break down that it's attributed
It was just one exercise you posted
to something
on.
that, I mean, just to like, that's such garbage to do that. But I mean,
So gross.
I had planned to come on here and roast the functional patterns guy, but I was like, dude, Joe did such a better job.
Yeah.
I could have.
You know what I like about
I'll
Joe?
share the clip.
Here are 7 possible reasons Halliburton tore his Achilles.
I had to comment on this because I fucking hate when trainers do this. And there's a bunch of trainers making bullshit videos just like this one, where they're using a famous pro athlete's injury as an opportunity to promote their own business, while simultaneously putting down the trainer who actually worked with the athlete. Honestly, I think it's disgusting. The fucking audacity and the delusion one must have to insinuate that an athlete wouldn't have gotten injured if they just would have hired you. Newsflash, there are no trainers or movement systems that can guarantee an athlete won't get injured. We all do the best we can with the information we have. And if you are someone who claims to know exactly why an athlete got injured simply from watching a 15-second training clip on Instagram, you're full of shit. There are 1,001 different factors that come into play when we're dealing with professional athletes and injuries. The disrespect towards our fellow trainers and coaches has to stop. But if you do want to place the blame on the trainer when an injury occurs, then I think it's only fair to give all the credit to that same trainer when the athlete has success, right? Yet, where were all the videos of the trainers praising Tyrese Halliburton's trainer during the NBA playoffs when Tyrese was kicking ass? Where are those videos? Oh, they don't exist because at the end of the day, it's still an ego-driven field infested with insecure people who are jealous of trainers who have a more impressive client list than them. It's real easy to criticize the top 1% of trainers who are working with famous athletes that are in the spotlight when the majority of trainers doing the criticizing have an unknown clientele of JV players whose only risk of injury is getting a splinter in their ass from sitting on the bench. So let's keep that in mind before we decide to throw shade. Oh, and by the way, quick message to Tyrese Halliburton. I know we never met, but I have heard nothing but great things about you from both Triple H and Ben Bruno. So I wanted to personally wish you the speediest of recoveries. And speaking of Ben, as a strength and conditioning coach myself with over 30 years of experience, I would like to personally tell you, you picked the right trainer. He is hands down one of the best in the business. If anyone could help you get back to 110%, it's Ben. And fuck any other trainer who tells you different.
Joe was a trainer I looked up to when I was a trainer.
Yep.
And here we are, 10 years into Mind Pump. He's still a trainer I look up to.
I know,
I still learn from him.
100%.
He's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Good
Speaking
Rock solid.
Speaking of injuries and healing, what always used to blow me away, and I think I know why now, these athletes will have a tear and they heal so fast.
Bro,
I used to be like, now part of it's genetic. They are,
of course,
athletes. They're like the 1%. So their bodies are just different.
Yeah.
But the other part of it, which I understand now, is they've probably been using healing peptides for 15 years.
For sure.
Before
They've
we
known
ever
about it before we
yeah,
have.
dude, for sure.
Of course. because it's all the science has been around for a long time.
That's right.
And so you know that when you're that high of a level and you have that kind of money, you have that much resources and access.
Yeah, you're a however many millions of dollar asset to this team.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, let's get the top scientists. Let's get you on these
I was the
peptides.
same way too. I was always like, this makes no sense.
Yeah, how are they playing like at a
And
pro
to your
level?
point,
a month
of
later?
course, genetics always play a huge role. So the super athlete is, part of what makes them a super athlete, aside from all their athletic gifted abilities, probably also their recovery ability, their ability to tolerate. Yep. So they have that working for them too. But still, it was still such a short period of time that it didn't make sense to me. Like there's something else going on here. I feel like what we understand and know about peptides now and some of the recovery therapies that are becoming popular today, that science has been around for a long time.
I gotta say, so because we have our partners at mphormones.com, we have access to peptides, which allows me to use them and see what's doing what or whatever. When you combine, pentadecaarginate, which is almost identical to BPC 157. So BPC 157 is what everybody knows, but I use a version called pentadecaarginate. You combine that with thymosin beta.
The Wolverine stack.
Oh, wow.
There's a reason why they call it that.
Oh, wow. And there's anecdotes of people like healing in 50% of the time it would normally take.
Yeah.
Cut your healing in half. When I use those two, if I have a strain or anything like that, it is miraculous. I'm not using that word lightly. It's literally miraculous.
No.
The other thing too, when you combine those two, is you just get this different look to your body. And I think it's because it upregulates the growth hormone receptors. So I think because it definitely changes how my body looks. But that combo right there, those two peptides together, if you want to heal, oh my goodness.
I mean,
it is crazy.
There's like supplements are here, peptides and stuff, and hormone therapy is like up here. And even within that category, and you're probably one of the better people. I think Ben Greenfield, guys that really control a lot of the variables in their normal life are some of the best people to hear talk about, oh, wow, I felt that. I noticed difference. I'm not that person, admittedly. Like, one, I'm super inconsistent with things all the time. I change variables like right now in my life, right? Competing time, that was a total different time. But right now, I'm admittedly not the best person to be like, oh, this peptide or this thing. But that is so noticeably different. Like I've been
because you've used it when you've injured.
Yeah, I've been injured so many times in my entire training career and playing sports, like my entire life, and know about how long an injury should take and what it should feel like. And every time that I've been injured and I've used that stack now, and it's probably been at least 6 times now or whatever, it is like notice like half the time. Like
to the point where you're questioning the healing. Like, is this really? I tore my hamstring where there was bruising. It was noticeable. I tore it in Hawaii. It was noticeable bruising. Didn't have access to my peptides. So I was in Hawaii for 5 days with this injury, limping around, got back, went on the 2 peptides I talked about. Within 3 weeks, fine. 3 weeks. This was a discoloration hamstring. This was like a pretty high grade tear.
What is your prediction, Sal, with RFK getting involved now? And I know what his thoughts are on a lot of that. Do you think that we are going to see peptides more widely used just by the general population? Do you think we're going to start to see it more in like the general practitioners being able to?
I do, because they're different than pharmaceuticals. So peptides exist in the body. Now that doesn't mean that they're risk-free, but the risk profile of a peptide is generally far safer than a pharmaceutical, mainly because they already exist in the body. Pharmaceuticals are drugs that they invent to shoehorn into a particular class of receptors to make something happen. Peptides, your body knows what they are and what to do with them. So like BPC 157, thymosin beta is made by your thymus, okay? Your body releases this when you're injured. It releases it to speed up recovery. Taking it is, your body knows what to do with it, and it does what it's supposed to do with it. A pharmaceutical is different because the side effects are, who knows, and let's see what ends up happening. And again, we're kind of forcing this drug to do this thing. But a peptide it's like a hormone. Your body already has them. So when you take those 2 peptides together, you're taking 2 things that your body already produces. You're just amping them up, which speeds up
signaling the natural production.
That's right. Now the problem is that they're not, they're generic. So the margins on them are slower or are smaller. They're not patented like a drug is. So the incentives are not the same. That being said, they're so effective that they're blowing up and everybody knows about them and they're exploding. And I think that what I think he's going to do, I'm hoping what he's going to do is he's going to try to make it more accessible for people as an alternative. Because right now, if you want a pharmaceutical for pain, your insurance will cover it. So now I'm like, well, I got this pain in my knee. Doctor prescribed this painkiller. I'm going to take that. Whereas if I got to go get a peptide, it's more expensive, not because peptides are more expensive, but because insurance doesn't cover it.
the loopholes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is going to end up happening.
It'll be interesting.
As a result.
It'll be interesting.
Speaking of doctors, you guys see the report on AI doctors? Have you guys seen this?
No.
Can I read something crazy to you guys?
I have heard.
I know of people already that are using AI just to read their panels for them and getting like these crazy, right? If you know how to prompt the AI correctly and you go, here's my blood panels, basically tell me all the things I should be doing, supplementing, all the reports are like,
I'm sure it's a lot more individualized.
Oh,
because when
bro.
you go to a doctor and it's a general practitioner, you're just going to get like
and then you can
vague
modify it,
advice.
Justin. So
Yeah.
then it feeds you out things and you go, well, I also have this going on, or I have only this much time to do this. And
Here's the difference between a brilliant doctor and a good doctor when it comes to diagnosing. A brilliant doctor can take all these variables from you. They know your medical history, that you went to this doctor, went to that doctor. They take all this stuff, they can bring it together, and from there they can assess what's going on better than a good doctor. Brilliant doctors.
Way more data points to work with.
Yeah. So what's that one TV show with that one doctor that does that?
House.
Yeah. So that's an example of like, now that's obviously a TV show, but a brilliant doctor can look at all these variables like, and I've been to 50 doctors. They can't tell what's wrong with me. And then the brilliant doctor will look at everything and go, oh, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. AI does that very well because it can take every variable.
Right.
So what they did was, they took an AI model, Microsoft developed an AI system, okay? And they compared it, they benchmarked it against real world case records published each week in the New England Journal of Medicine. The AI diagnostic correctly diagnosed 4 times better than a panel of human doctors. So they compared it to a panel of human doctors versus AI. They knew what the answer was. So they said, here, what do you think is going on here? AI was 4 times more effective at diagnosing. Yikes. How wild is that? Isn't that crazy?
They had all the same variables, like
That's right.
access to those variables, and it still beat them.
Yep,
Dang.
that's right. So
what a major disruptor.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So now they're not. I don't think they'll replace doctors.
No. You know what's cool about this? That's exciting is that one of the number one complaints, both from doctors and from patients, is the limited time that doctors have with these patients. They got 15 minutes to do exactly what you just said. Is aggregate all this data, figure it out, get a little bit of a personal story, and then do this thing. Where what I think is going to happen is that they're going to be able to use it in conjunction with complement with the AI, and now you're just going to get a better answer and response from your doctor.
If I had to imagine what this would look like, it would be like they would use an AI model that's going to give them 3 options. Then the doctor is going to look at those options
and say, I think we should do this.
Yes. Rather than like this.
Okay. Or even final say.
Or even like how right now when you come, like what's the process? You go in to see the doctor, you sit in the lobby for a half hour, then you get in, you see the nurse who comes in and does some of the basic blood pressure stuff like that. Then you wait again for another 15 minutes. The doctor comes in and you get 15 minutes with him.
You just need longer forms to fill out ahead of time. So when you go in there, you get all the variables and it accumulates.
Yeah, or the nurse does a lot of that for you. She does a lot of getting it set up for when the doctor comes in. I mean, it's going to make things better.
A lot more efficient.
Yeah, I don't think it eliminates doctors and the human element quite yet, at least.
No, it's also going to revolutionize the pharmaceutical industry because what it's going to do is it's going to take all these potential drugs and it's going to sift through 100,000 potentials and break it down to these are the ones that are 90% likely to be effective for what you're looking for. It's going to break it down to 4 or 5. Then the pharma industry can now take their money and invest in those and figure out what's going on. It's going to save a lot of money.
It'd be cool to see that too, even on a preventative level, where you see options of like, here's, if the symptoms are severe, then we start going down the chain of like, more aggressive
I have
options.
a family member who his father died in his early 40s from a heart attack. He's had a couple heart attacks now, and he's only in his, I want to say, in his late 50s. And when first off, having a heart attack, one of the things that they'll measure, I think it's called troponin. Am I right, dog? Is that what it is? Look that up. I think it's a marker of heart damage. His troponin levels will measure fine. He went to the hospital having a heart attack. He's got the pain, and they're like measuring his troponin. Like, you're not having a heart attack. You're not having a heart attack. Your levels are normal. And it turned out he was having a heart attack. Wow. He doesn't have crazy blood lipids. He doesn't have all this other, and they can't figure out why. And this happens, by the way. This is a small but significant percentage of people. They're in this weird category of, why are you getting these issues when you don't have all these normal markers that we would normally see? Is it troponin? It is troponin. What's going on? Someone like that I could see benefiting from AI, where they're like, you know what? Let's do all these tests, input your data in the AI, and let's figure it out. And it could be something strange. Like, you don't absorb this nutrient. That's it.
Who are all the top competitors in AI, and what are they called? So you have ChatGPT, you have Gronk, you have
Grok. I know Microsoft has one.
Who's? Okay,
Gemini is Google's.
So have you? I was asking because I know that I think we even said this, that we thought that ChatGPT was going to basically destroy Google, right? And I even told my friends the other day, I was like, we're so conditioned to Google search when using AI is better for everything. Every single thing that you would Google for, AI is better than Googling already, right? But have you guys noticed when you Google what happens now?
Yeah, it pops up AI.
The first answer is AI now.
Yep.
So it's already what a move. It's
integrated.
Yeah, what a move by Google. I didn't even realize this until recently, because I've been trying to use ChatGPT, and then I actually Googled something and I went, oh shit, the top thing is the AI answer first, and then it has all the links to other possibilities. But they've already integrated that. So to me, that was the best defense they had to that. Yeah. So these are all. Okay.
There's a lot. ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Perplexity, DeepSeek, Splutter, Meta, Gemini.
Doesn't even have Grok, the one you
Grok's
use.
not even on there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Splutter AI?
Yeah.
Who owns Grok? Who owns that one?
That's
Elon
X.
Musk.
That's X.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT is
OpenAI.
OpenAI. And Microsoft, and then what? And then who did you say Google was? Justin?
Gemini, I think.
Gemini is Google.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what? Now one of the challenges though is that sometimes the answers seem like they're biased because the AI seems like it has its own bias or personality. So it'll come up with answers that are like, huh? Like, why would you say something like that? Some of them are pretty obvious.
Really?
Yeah. So
now, can you prompt out of it though? You can imagine you can prompt out of it.
Yeah, like there's a famous one where it's like, if there was a terror, they'll ask like hypothetical questions. They fixed this, but there was one where it was like, if there's a terrorist who was going to detonate a nuke, but in order for you to stop them from detonating the nuke, you had to say a racial slur. What do you do? And the AI is like, well, you never should say a racial. So in other words, let the nuke go off.
Yeah.
And it's because it was programmed that's like one of the worst possible things. Yeah. That's a silly example, but yeah. So
interesting. Yeah, and I feel like though you could like even the imperfections, at least what I've seen, you can prompt around it where you could say like, well, except for this example, or give me something that's more like this, or speak to me from this. Like I've even heard about the loopholes around gambling and stuff like that. Like because they've obviously programmed it to where gamblers can't use it to improve their gambling skills, but then you could still
figure out a way.
Yeah, like it's a book or a movie, write a book or a movie.
Pick the best stocks.
So there's prompts to still work around all of the things that they're trying to like regulate with it. So it's interesting.
I got a question for you guys. Have you guys ever used something that was so good, a product, or maybe you drove a car or you did something that it ruined that whole category because it was so good? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, there's lots of things like that.
So I Paleo Valley ruined protein powder for me. It tastes so good that everything else tastes terrible.
I think it's a combination though for you, right? It's not only does it taste so good, but it also probably, when you talk about digestion, is probably one.
Well, that's why I started using it.
Right.
Was because I can digest collagen easily. I can't digest.
You can't do whey. So,
no. But I've had so many friends now that switched over it because the taste, and they're like, "Are you sure this doesn't have like a bunch of sugar? Are you sure this?" I'm like, "No, dude."
My favorite part about it is your ability to boost it all the way up to say 60, 80 grams in a serving,
and feel like water.
And it not, because I remember the old days of doing that with protein. I remember a young kid trying to chase protein and having a hard time back then and being like, oh, I'll just have 3 scoops or 4 scoops. And it's just like,
God.
You know, it's like you're
suffering.
Yeah, you're just like
half an hour
choking down
later.
chalk or it was pasty, and just like this is not good. Where that it's so thin and light
Dude.
that you can put 4 or 5 scoops in there, and it's like
I
still
used to
fine.
do this in high school, man. I would pound protein shakes or gainers. Then I'd go to school,
Bro.
and I was
It was like fireworks in the back of the math class.
Oh my
I'm just like, oh my God, I
You
gotta
guys
go.
are those guys.
I'm like, poor. I felt bad for anybody
I
sitting
blame
around
it
me.
on everybody else.
Yeah, of course you
Yeah.
did. You'd call it out right away.
yeah.
You probably pointed out the nerd.
Oh,
man.
God.
Oh,
So
Johnny,
bad. So bad.
that's your fault.
Dude, I have a story I got to share with you, Sal, before I forget. I shared it with Doug and Justin yesterday, and I did only because, was it, who was training? Marcelo. Marcelo had a client in our studio, and Marcelo, obviously, like some of our trainers sometimes will let the client choose their music or playlist.
Oh.
And so this song comes on, and I go, oh my God, like up until just a week ago, I'd never heard the song, and now I've heard it 1,000 times already. And so I'm like, whose playlist is this? And Marcelo's like, oh, he points to the client. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta tell you this story that just happened to me. So it's me, my best friend, and my best friend's daughter. The one that I tell you, she is just like a fireball.
Yeah.
She is all personality. Absolutely love this. My goddaughter is amazing, right? And she's in the car. It's me, my best friend, and me. We're in my truck, and then she's in the back seat, and we're driving from Reno to Truckee. And she like Justin and I are kind of talking, having a conversation, and she's like trying to get our attention. Daddy, pink pony girl. She keeps saying that to Justin. I'm like, what is she saying? And he's like, oh, pink pony girl. I'm like, what is that? Is that a game or something there, a toy she wants? And he's like, no, it's a song. He's like, she wants me to play it. I'm like, well, play it, put it on, right? So, and I'm like uncle getting all into it, and my truck, I got the stereo system in it, so I'm like,
You're all bumping it.
he puts on Pink Pony Girl. I crank it up in there. The windows are down. We're driving, it's a summer day, and so that she is just singing at the top of her lungs. Little 3-year-old,
that's so cute.
Pink Pony. She knows all the words. I'm dying laughing, and we're going, and I'm like listening, and I go, bro, do you know what the fuck your daughter is singing right now?
No.
Bro, the song is about a girl who moves from Tennessee to California to become a stripper. She's like rebelling.
What are you doing,
bro?
dude?
You have got to listen to the song. It has such a catchy chorus. And of course, the 3-year-old only hears the Pink Pony Girl, and she has no idea what she's singing. But I'm like, dude, as a dad, you have one job, bro. You keep your daughter off the pole. At 3 years
Chris
old,
Rock,
your girl's
highlighted.
already singing the top of her lungs a stripper song, dude. This cannot be a good start to that.
No.
I damn near fell out of my chair when that happened because I had no idea. I'd never heard the song before. Never had heard it. I guess it's really popular. More not right. I'm under a rock, but she was singing
Oh,
the
I
top
can't
of her
wait to hear it
lungs.
now.
Oh yeah. So there's a clip. I'll share it with the editing team so they can insert it in here. Because when we get to one of my favorite things to do when we get into our community over in Truckee, I always let my son get on my lap and drive the rest of the way into the house or whatever. And so I let her do that. And and we had the song cranked, the windows down, and she's singing to the top of her
People
lungs.
are looking in the car.
We're driving.
Terrible
by.
parents. They're listening to a stripper song.
Oh, I know.
And they're letting her drive.
I know. And I had a bunch of DMs too of people that were like, yes, I'm aware. I just found out what it was. It's not me it's not my daughter. I'm not encouraging it.
My
Whatever.
kids listen to dinosaur songs. There's songs you can find on YouTube of Tyrannosaurus Rex and Spinosaurus and these crazy names. My kids just over and over and over again want to listen to
What
the same-
is that
There's weird stuff on YouTube, dude. Like, have you ever seen? There's this guy. He just does a whole swath of anybody's name, and then he just adds like poop. He's like poop, Sal, poop.
Oh, that's
poop. I was
oh
like,
my God, my son would love
yeah,
that.
I know. I was like, oh my God, if my kids were younger, they would have ate
Dude,
this up.
he's getting in trouble right now because it's my fault because I make butt and poop jokes all the time.
Yeah, we had to do this
and
with
now
Max. We
my
gotta
son,
reverse it out a
it's
little
his
bit.
favorite thing to do.
yeah.
And the more you tell him not to do it, the
Yeah,
more he has Tourette's over it and he needs to say it.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I gave him $5 because I said, if you can go 30 minutes, which is a long time for a 4-year-old, you can go 30 minutes without saying any butt, poop, or pee.
Yeah.
I'll give you $5. And he messed up twice, and I started the timer over. I gave him another chance, and he did it. But he was so proud.
Oh, God.
But he gets in trouble right now.
My
for it.
son is the same thing. He learned it from my godson who's a little bit older and was saying and chicken butt. And so chicken butt is the answer to everything. Hey, Max, do you want to do this with chicken butt? And he just thinks it's so funny. It's not funny, bro. It's not funny anymore. You said it way too much.
A million times. It's funny.
So
anyway, he taught my 2-year-old. So I have my little 2-year-old now, and I'll say to her, "Hey, Dahlia, do you love Papa?" "I love butts." Oh, God. Now we're here.
Oh, God.
Beautiful.
Look, most of you probably don't drink tap water. You probably have filtered water, but you wash your body with tap water. That can be a problem. Sometimes tap water, oftentimes, has tons of chlorine, which dries out your skin, can cause issues. Heavy metals can sometimes be in that. And there's other contaminants. Well, check it out. There's a company called Jolie Skin, and they make shower heads that go on your shower and filter those things out. It's a filter for your shower or your bathtub. Go check them out. Go to jolieskinco.com/mindpump. That's JOLIESKINCO.com/mindpump. Try it out for yourself with free shipping. By the way, if you don't like it, you could return it for a full refund with no questions asked within 60 days. Try it out. Your skin will feel different. So will your hair. Again, it's jolieskinco.com/mindpump. Back to the show.
First question is from Jason Snurb. Should you add more weight or do more reps?
Oh, I love this. I love this question because I could see how either one would be appropriate. Yeah. I can't. Now I'll say this. Typically with my clients, until we get to maybe rep 15, maybe a little lower, 13, I tend to add reps because I want them to master the weight that they're lifting before I add load. As I've gotten older, I now add reps more than I add weight. In the early days, it was weight.
Yeah.
But I don't think I think one or the other can be right depending on what you're doing. If your reps are really low, add reps. If your reps are really high, add weight. So what's high? Over 15 reps, probably add a little weight. If your reps are below 6, add reps.
I think you're right. I do kind of use that as a determiner if they're a bit newer in the process or younger, to see how they can stretch their capacity with that and find that range and limitation with weight. And then as we have gone through this and matured, adding reps, it just seems like a better, plan for longevity's sake.
Yeah.
So this is a really cool question because we got asked this in our group coaching forum or the Zoom call last night, and I was on this, and I also included that what you guys didn't say is tempos in there too, slowing down the rep. And the person who asked, it was a really good question. Corinne knew her better than I did, and Corinne gave the advice and then came back over and said to basically reiterated that I know her really well, and this is why I wanted her to do this thing. And so this is where trainers, and this part is another example though of where having a personal trainer who knows you as a client is really helpful. Because I'll give you an example where the answer to this is different. And that to get to the same person at the same stage of their training is some clients they don't believe in themselves and they're fearful of adding weight. But as a trainer, you're watching them I know she's much stronger than that. I'm watching the way she's moving that way, and so that trainer, that client, I encourage come on, we could add 5 more pounds. Even though I know I could progressively overload her by slowing the tempo down or adding more reps to the point you guys are making right now, because that is probably the default, safer, better route to go. I think that advice is a wise, generic, good answer from a trainer is hey, early in their lifting career, add reps, slow down tempo, or the first 2 directions we go, because that's risk versus reward I'm gambling with. But there is also the example of, this is the client who I know can push more, and I'm trying to also teach that skill in them. Yeah,
that's great. That's great for trainers to hear who are listening, because often what you're weighing is results to can I do something with this client that's going to improve their trust in me, their trust in themselves, and the relationship to fitness. And sometimes adding weight does that.
Yes.
And it's more often than not with women. More often than not with men, I don't need to add weight to do that. More often than not with
the opposite.
I got to slow
down the tempo.
Get them to,
because
yes.
Great point. And that's another example of how this answer is different. generally speaking, and there's exceptions to the rule in both, but generally speaking, my men will sacrifice form and technique to put more weight on. And
I could do more. No, you
exactly.
can't.
So that client, I go, hey, what? Instead of adding more weight, let's slow the tempo down by 4 seconds. And then I love to watch that cook them without any more weight. But then my, generally speaking, my female clients tend to be more, their form and technique is great. And she's doing wonderful. And I could just add up the reps, or I could slow the tempo down more, but I want her to see herself lift 10 more pounds. Because I know how empowering that is. Yes. I know how many clients that I've had that I got to do that and they went, oh my God, I did not know I could do that. And what that does
shatters their perception.
For that new client, boy, it's a powerful,
I had female clients that the 20-pound dumbbells were the heaviest that they ever went. And so getting them to go up to the 25s or the 30s or the 40s was like, it just shattered their paradigm, improved their confidence. And now they're like, I'm strong. I'm actually strong. It's like, you could have done this before. You were just afraid.
Yep.
And so increasing the weight improves the client-trainer relationship and it improves their relationship to fitness.
All three, though, are examples of progressively overloading the body, which is the most important thing. Adding weight could be one of the examples, adding repetitions and slowing down tempo. All three will get the job done. All three will be a novel stimulus, will continue to build muscle, are great for anybody at any level. But here's where the individualized part comes in 100%. And where coaching and training will always be better than a bunch of 3 talking heads on a podcast, because that trainer, if they're a good trainer, they factor in the other variable of, I know my client and I know what they're going to need the most.
Next question is from Chris Shenanigans. I've heard you guys say protein is hit or miss daily. It's not a weekly average. Why? If I hit 150 grams one day, 250 grams the next, for an average of 200 grams per day, why does that not work?
Because you don't store it like carbs.
Yeah, you don't store protein like you do with carbohydrates or fat. So fat, you obviously store it on your body as body fat. Although if you go too low of fat for too long, that's not good. It'll kill you. Carbohydrates you store in the form of glycogen. Your liver and your muscles will hold that for you. Protein you don't store. The protein on your body is like actual active tissue. You don't want your body to pull from those tissues. By the way, that's hard to do. You have to really starve yourself for a while for that to happen. But here's what happens when you overeat protein. So let's say the maximum benefit you can get from protein for you is 200 grams. Everything above and beyond that gets converted to energy in the form of glycogen or stored body fat if your calories are too high. You don't take that extra protein and store it.
Yeah, so you could use it later for recovery.
It doesn't happen. Carbohydrates you store, fat you store. So protein is the one thing that you need to hit consistently to reap the most benefits. You can't have 3 high protein. Now, there is evidence, because I'm going to get people that say this, there is evidence that shows that when you go lower protein back to higher protein, muscle protein synthesis levels change. So there is some compensation. So what I'm saying is overgeneralized and black and white. I know it's not as black and white as what I'm saying, because it is true. Like if you go low protein one day, high protein the next day,
absorb,
your body, it does more protein synthesis the next day to kind of offset. So, but it's not storing it. It's still not storing it. So yes, there's some compensation, but the compensation is not the same as with carbohydrates or with fat or with calories. Calories can average out over a week or definitely over a few days. Protein, not really.
Next question is from Sean Dickerson. I keep seeing that taking baking soda before you work out will give you bigger pumps. Is there any truth to this? I'm worried instead of getting bigger pumps, it's going to be bigger dumps.
Is this a thing?
Doug, look up.
Is baking soda a thing?
Look up the studies on baking soda and athletic performance.
What's in it?
It's actually
sodium. What is it?
Bicarbonate.
Bicarbonate.
So it buffers.
Like a precursor to nitric oxide.
No,
what is it?
It buffers your blood. It's a buffer. So
Dr.
it makes
Sheets talked about this briefly.
Yeah. So enhances athletic performance, particularly high intensity activities, by buffering the acidity that builds up in muscles during exercise. So it's a buffering process. Now here's the deal.
I've never seen this or tried this.
Here's the deal. It works.
I've done this for acid reflux, and it helps a bit.
Well, yeah. Though it works, by the way. Like the data on baking soda for high intensity exercise, like there is a measurable improvement in athletic performance. So it's actually, when you're looking at it, especially for stamina and endurance, high intensity style, it's probably one of the best things you could take.
Is this in a short term, or is this like even like consistently?
Before. So you take it before you work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, here's the bad part. The high percentage of people who do this will get diarrhea, which is not good for which is not good for athletic performance.
Great pumps, but huge dumps.
Yeah. But it is true. It's weird. It's cheap. You can test this out if you're one of those people
How
that can
much,
do this.
Sal? What, like a tablespoon?
Oh, you know what? Good question, Doug. Look up how much baking soda to improve athletic performance.
You see how good the AI is, though, by the way?
gotta be like a
Doug's
teaspoon
Googling, and that's what it gives you now?
Yes. Listen, the data on this is fascinating. But by the way, this is old study. Like a lot of studies have been done this for years. So this isn't like new. It's been around for a long time.
I've heard about this and never actually applied it. I wish I would have experimented with it.
Does that give you a dose, Doug?
I'm looking for that.
Yeah. Look up how much. Yeah. How do you
3 to 4
3 to 4 tablespoons of water? 4 hours.
Teaspoons.
4 hours before athletic performance. Oh, so it's 4 hours before.
Oh.
Interesting.
I've never tried this.
I kind of want to try it.
I know.
You know, because I tend to have gut issues anyway, so I'll be really mad if I did this and then
Got to taste terrible.
baking soda's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's not
Really?
bad.
Yeah, you mix it in water. I mean, it's chalky, salty kind of.
Yeah,
weird, but
it tastes like salty Alka-Seltzer.
You used to brush your teeth with that, didn't you?
Yeah, I still use toothpaste that's got it. You know what's funny? Baking soda it was the go-to remedy for heartburn, like you said.
Well,
My dad
honestly,
swears by it.
Okay, so yeah, and this always was a factor for me when I'd stay at a friend's house. I was always like paranoid because
They didn't have anything?
like crazy
got baking
acid.
soda.
Yeah, it's not like everybody carries Tums and Mylanta and whatever the fuck else I need to solve my issues.
But
you know?
everybody has baking soda?
But everybody has baking soda. So
That's
in the
hilarious.
middle of the night, so I remember I'd stay at a friend's house.
Would you just go through
I
their
was
fridge?
unfamiliar with their house, and I'm just like, 2 a.m. like going through their cabinets and shit. Found baking soda. I'm like, yes. And I'd take too much. I'd be burping forever, and then finally it'd like calm down. But yeah, it totally works.
Yeah, my dad does. This is like an old Sicilian remedy. My grandmother. You take baking soda and you add lemon to it in water and mix it.
I've
And
done
Now
that
there's a lot of like food recipes that include a few teaspoons and
yeah.
baking soda. So
it absorbs smells and
So that's how we've always is in the refrigerator. You keep it open in there to help absorb the smells and stuff like that. Keep that down. So would the foods that contain that extra
I
baking
don't think
soda?
it's enough. I don't know very many. How much you're gonna eat 3 to 4 tablespoons or teaspoons of baking soda?
I
in a
think
muffin.
I think like cakes and things like that. How
Yes,
They
eat the
do.
whole
It's
cake.
very, very low amounts.
so eat the whole cake.
It just gets blended in.
Like this idea.
Yeah,
Get any of the effects.
Adam's like, I ate. Yesterday I worked out. I had 3 teaspoons.
All I
of
got
baking
was the
soda.
diarrhea.
How'd you get it? Well, I ate a whole cake.
Ate a cake.
Next question is from Dr. Cotton. Any tips for hitting all heads of the triceps when behind the neck movements cause elbow pain or discomfort? I don't think it's a mobility issue since the pain is at the flexion point, not when having hands behind the head.
So, okay, first off, to be clear, you're hitting all 3 heads anytime you do a tricep exercise.
Can't isolate a part of them.
Yeah, so you're always hitting all. Now, it is true that when your elbows are above your head, that the stretch is in the long head because that's the one that attaches the scapula. And so it is being more targeted. I hate using that word, but it is being more targeted because of the stretch. Now, here's what I would do with my clients who would have elbow issues with overhead exercises. We would still do them. We do them so light, it was silly because this would actually fix it. This would fix it. So like, let's say your workout, normally you'd use a 30-pound dumbbell overhead. I'm giving you a 7-pound dumbbell and you're slowly stretching.
You do that even in a rubber band.
Yeah, and squeezing at the top. Like, I am not a believer. Now, there's definitely, if you have an injury, acute injury, like avoid the movement that hurts it. But I'm in the school of thought that if an exercise hurts, figure out why it hurts and fix that. And I'm telling you, sometimes what fixes that issue is to go super light and then practice that movement.
I also like, which is also going lighter, doing single arm this way because then it allows like a lot when you do the like in a easy curl or a machine or a dumbbell, you're in this fixed position. Whereas if I kick out and I can open up, it gives a little relief. It's because sometimes people are like this and they're straining their neck and their shoulders to do that position. Or simply just by doing a single, I can kind of position my body
and body a little bit
to where it's more comfortable. Yet still get the benefits of the stretch position
I
of the
to this
tricep.
day, when I was a kid, I was really strong at this exercise. So it was like, when you're a kid and you're strong at something, you're like, cool, let's
Do it all the
show
time.
off in the gym. Yeah, so I'd use a 120-pound dumbbell and I'd go crazy with it. These days, I go light when I do overhead. I use a rope, I use the cable, and my goal is to get a deep stretch and squeeze, and I don't do it heavy, and I get great results from it.
I love
never
this.
have pain.
I'd single dumbbell it. I think that's I love a single dumbbell one at a time like that, and that way too I can focus on balancing it out and get the stretch. I'm also not risking a lot because I'm not as heavy, but then it increases the intensity. So those are some ways to do it. At the end of the day, too, like if it absolutely was bothering my client that much, it's not like the end of the world.
No, it's not a squat, or a deadlift, like this functional movement that you absolutely have to do. All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. One of the keys to fat loss is protein. It's true. If you're not eating a high protein diet, you're not going to burn as much body fat as you can. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about the smartest ways to use protein for fat burn and to build muscle. You got to watch this.
I wish I understood this earlier in my career. I think it was probably almost 10 years in when I started to just focus on this with clients.
I knew it was important,
Yeah.
but I don't know how important.
Yeah, I also did. I knew it was important, but I also didn't